All right. Some other questions from your mock draft, some other interesting points. This one I love. You had a few guys here who have been mocked late first consistently, going a lot higher. Yep. And I agree with all of them. Walter Nolan, the Ole Miss defensive tackle, going 11th overall to the San Francisco 49ers. You have Josh Simmons, the Ohio State tackle, with obviously the torn patellar and injury concerns, going 13th overall to the Miami Dolphins. And you have James Pierce, who a lot of people see fall like the Tennessee edge rusher, going 15th. A lot of people see falling because of character concerns, but he goes 15th to the Atlanta Falcons. So walk us through all three of those, because on film, they are all top 15 players in this draft class, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt at all about it, right? And ultimately, there are flags about Walter Nolan and about James Pierce, and then there were medical concerns as it relates to Josh Simmons. This mock is about taking some chances, and I'm trying to predict what teams are going to do. Not what I would do as a GM, right? But what teams are going to do. And if we all agree that there's not a great heaping amount of talent, and if we all believe that these teams have spent so many resources and so long in the draft combing through all of these, rumors and innuendo and whatever, I do believe, having called around the league a number of conversations, that some of these guys will be drafted higher than what you may have thought based off of what you've heard about potential character. Right now, there are some guys that I don't have going in the first round that some other mocks would have going, but I'm saying, look, I think that this guy's going to go. I don't think this guy's going to go. It's a little bit of a bet, but Walter Nolan going to San Francisco, getting in that system there, I could absolutely see happening. Clearly a need from a position standpoint. Miami Dolphins, do they believe in Paul at left tackle? Sure, right? They just drafted him in the second round last year. Simmons, though, he's sitting right there staring at you. I know they have a lot of holes. They could easily go somewhere else, a different position, but he would be the best tackle available at that point. And then Pierce. Look, I understand the concern and concerns. I do think that there are some teams out there who will be willing to take some chances. And so that's why I have him going to Atlanta there in the middle of the first.
You got to swing the bat on some of these guys. And if you really, I say I mean management, ownership, decision makers in these buildings, because these are the guys, Walter Nolan and Josh Simmons in particular, that if you end up playing against them, you're like, well, shit, we could have had either of these dudes. Josh Simmons, if he is healthy, we're looking at a perennial Pro Bowl type player. I'll be honest with you. What I saw on film from this guy shows me an elite offensive lineman, somebody who loves the game and is very good. But that red flag is injury. So do you have a training room that can nurture and harbor recovery for this young man? And as it pertains to the character concerns with both these guys, not every building in the National Football League is created equally in terms of how they deal with, let's say, unique personalities. When I think about my time in Chicago, I think about George McCaskey and Virginia McCaskey, rest in peace, and the way they wanted to construct their roster to be reflective of their program, their franchise. And then I think about Kansas City, the Chiefs, and while they still wanted to maintain integrity and honor with the Chiefs' history, they wanted ballers, and they wanted guys who could play the game of football, and they trusted the coaching staff. They trusted the training staff, and they trusted the leadership on both sides of the ball to be able to circle these guys in and have them be a big part of their success. So if you're willing to swing the bat, if you're willing to step up and say, no, this guy's so good, I want him on my team, and I'm going to make it my duty to make sure that he's not a shit disturber, that's the best way to get better, in my opinion. Don't let good players pass you by. Darnell Wright got drafted by the Bears, and I love Darnell Wright. I think it's the right pick. Jalen Carter obviously had a ton of stuff going on off the field. And there were a ton of people that said, I don't care what happened off the field. Have you seen him rush the passer? Have you seen him take on a double team? I understand that. But for the Bears, it wasn't right. But now every week you see Jalen Carter getting 4 or 5 pressures and you're like, shit, he could have been ours. But it comes down to your personal decision. You got to swing the bat.
Yeah, to put some context to all three, we talked about James Pierce. And obviously the quote was a Tennessee staffer was asked, if you could be, if you could go to the NFL, would you want him on your team? And they said flat out no. Obviously with Josh Simmons, torn patella against Oregon, it was midway through last season. It's a big injury, TBD on his recovery and how it will go into next season. And then with Walter Nolan, the quote is right here I have from Bob McGinn's awesome series on golongtd.com. Check it out if you haven't. He said he'd probably be at the top of this list if you could just not see him between plays, between drills, between meetings. This kid has been paid at 5 different schools, 3 high schools and 2 colleges. He is a mercenary. He's probably the biggest mercenary in the whole draft. He has followed money everywhere, but yet is very quiet and shy. You would think totally disinterested. You wouldn't think he's hearing a word the coaches are saying to him. But when the ball is snapped for 4 seconds at a time, he's really talented, really gifted. So that's
and just real quick on that, right? Like, that is also why I almost hesitated when we got into this, because one character concern is different than another. Like, if you're telling me that this dude is just a little lazy, right? Like, ultimately, let's just shrink this down into.
You ever been around superstars?
I mean, right? And like, that's what I'm saying is that, like, a San Francisco program, a championship winning program, bring him in with Robert Saleh, bring him in with Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Like, he's going to learn it. And if he doesn't, then shame on you. But also,
it's called osmosis.
Right. And then also the whole, like, the mercenary thing and like jumping around for money, like, that's this world now. And so, like, I understand, and I'm not casting aspersions on the writer there, but like, that's it. That's like from now until however long, these dudes are just going to be chasing checks. And there shouldn't be a negative connotation to it, because it's just going to happen.
Well, and more often than not to say I know any more about the situation, but with the Nico Iamaleava situation, more often than not, it's the people in their ear, right? Sure. These are still, like, in high school, he's a 16-year-old, he's 17-year-old, 18-year-old. It's someone in his ear saying, go get the more money. And then obviously as you get older, more different people get in your ear. Sometimes you mature, sometimes you don't. Chris Jones, Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle, he fell to the second round because of the exact same concerns, effort concerns. How hard was he going to work? Well, Kansas City Chiefs
works hard every day. All he does is win Super Bowls and sack the quarterback. Okay.
So sometimes those things aren't always the best predictors.
And sometimes guys like Walter Nolan, they ruin practices, and they're such good guys that they feel bad about it. So they lower the RPMs. So they're not like killing everybody every play. I played with guys like that too. And then they really let it go on Sunday. And that's fun to watch.
All right, you had a few more trades in your mock draft that I want to dive into a little bit here. You had the Vikings trading back with the Chicago Bears coming up and getting Nick Emmanwori, the South Carolina safety. You had the Commanders trading down from 29 to 34, I believe, or 35 to go to the Tennessee Titans, coming up to draft Luther Burden. And then you had the Eagles at pick 32 trading down with the Raiders coming up to get Emeka Egbuka. So no trade up for QBs, but trade ups for some of those wide receivers, and the Bears targeting Emmanwori as well.
Yeah, I also had in there the Seahawks coming up for Ted McMillan, who was falling in my draft, who wound up being the second wide receiver after Matthew Golden. Right. Just to explain those a little bit. Look, first of all, again, as we talked about, they could be coming up for quarterbacks, right? Not these teams, but at the top of 2, the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders. Again, this is really a 1-year deal with Geno and the Saints. All of them can come up at the end of the first round. I just don't think that they will in this mock draft. I really wanted to send Kyle Emmanwori to the Bears. You see a need. You see how he is just athletically testing off the charts, almost quite literally. You have a Bears team that, again, has been aggressive. So if they're not trading up for a running back, trade up somewhere. And you got 2 second-round picks. Thank you, Carolina Panthers. And so go get your guy. And so look, I didn't love that you had to do an interdivision trade, but also Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has done that, and he has to trade back because they only have 4 picks in this entire draft. So that was the handshake deal I did there. Luther Burden, I think, makes a lot of sense for Tennessee. Again, you're going to have some concerns there, and so his talent would dictate that he should be a top 16-ish pick. You have him falling. I think he's picked around the spot that he should be picked at, into the first, top of the second, with the Titans coming up. And then lastly, Emeka Egbuka, who absolutely could go higher than 32. But I have him going to the Raiders, who clearly need a wide receiver. Good luck naming a receiver after Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers. They have to get somebody. This should be a playmaker top of the draft for the Las Vegas Raiders. And so they come up and trade back or trade up with a guy who's always willing to make a deal in Howie Roseman.
Do you think, so if you have 4 wide receivers going in this first round,
mm-hmm.
do you think we have a chance to see more than that? So I think these are the names that everyone, Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, and I'm saying that just because of the way the contract's been going. Matthew Golden, T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillan, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka. Could we see a 5th sneak in there, whether it's a Jaden Higgins, whether it's a Kyle Williams? Is there a chance we see one more name in there just because of when you look at the way wide receiver contracts are going, it's kind of blowing every other position except for edge rusher out of the market right now?
They are, however, like they're churning out really good wide receivers every year. Like I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've looked at the 26 class and the 27 classes. I'm just going to assume that they are going to be good as well. The other thing is my mock, I went heavy offensive and defensive lines because we just watched the Super Bowl. I have 4 wide receivers in the trade ups for wide receivers, and I don't have but 1 quarterback going. So I don't know who's going to get slotted down in order to allow for that 5th wide receiver to come in, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, last one here before we get to your guys' mailbag questions. Trades on draft night. We have guys like Jalen Ramsey, Tyreek Hill on the trade market. What kind of names do you expect to be moved over the course of the weekend? Kirk Cousins on the trade market as well.
Yeah, I don't expect Tyreek Hill. I could see a Jalen Ramsey. If it's going to be a Jalen Ramsey or Kirk Cousins, those 2 teams have been discussing it for a little while because Miami and Atlanta, they're gonna have to eat some of the contract, mm-hmm. right? And so that's how palatable is that going to be? Also, you're not getting a 1st-round draft pick for either one of the guys, so it doesn't have to be done on Thursday, right? It can be done at any point on Friday. Frankly, it could be done at any point on Saturday morning as well, right? And so, there's a Mark Andrews that is hanging out there that you could see. I've never really believed that Trey Hendrickson would get dealt. Things have gotten kind of quiet there. Hopefully he gets paid because certainly he deserves it, but I don't know that he's going to wind up getting dealt. So here's the name. Will Levis.
Okay.
I think that Will Levis can absolutely get dealt at any point over the weekend, right? I mean, they have seen enough over the last couple of years. You know what you have in him. You're bringing in Cam Ward, and because how much have we talked about how not good this quarterback class is, right? So if you can obviously you'd want to send a 6 for Will Levis. You may have to send a 5 for him, but Will Levis will be a better quarterback than any quarterback you take in the 5th round this year. He will be a better quarterback than any quarterback you take in the 4th round. And we could maybe keep going up. I'm not going to have that argument, but
yeah,
I could see Will Levis going this weekend.